In this lesson, we'll learn what layer comps are in Photoshop and how we can create them. So by working with layer comps, you can save yourself a lot of time, especially when it comes to comparing and contrasting, or even showcasing a lot of different iterations of a concept. Layer comps allows us to preserve the state of our layers over here in the Layers panel in regards to position, visibility, and even their appearance. This can come in to be very handy if you're working on a project that involved creating a concept for a web page layout. You may want to have multiple iterations of that concept where certain elements may be located in one area for one version, but then they might be somewhere else in another version, or perhaps they're not even visible at all in another version. You don't want to have to toggle the visibility of multiple layers and multiple groups to jump through all these different iterations. Layer comps removes that hassle and allows you to cycle through all of the different renditions of your concept with a lot of ease, all still within the same Photoshop document. So this is super cool. So we're going to demonstrate this using these very simple colored shapes that we have here that are each on their own layer. In our next lesson, we'll put layer comps into practice on something that involves an actual web page layout concept. So let's go ahead and come up here to Window at the top of our interface, and then about midway down that drop-down menu, click on Layer Comps. This takes us into our Layer Comps panel. So see where it says Shapes right here? This is a comp that I've already created and titled, okay? So to view what's in a comp, you want to click on this little box right here to the left of its title. So if you click on that, we can view what's in it. Now notice nothing changed here on our canvas. That's because what you're seeing here is actually what's in this particular comp. So this comp is storing the position of these individual layers, each containing one of these colored shapes, as well as the visibility. So you may notice that each one of these layers is visible right now, as noted by that little eye icon, and also their appearance. So let's create a new comp where we've changed up the position of each one of these layers. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm using my Move tool here. I'll grab this orange layer, which is this orange moon shape. I'll move it up. I might take this blue shape, move it over. We'll take that red kind of starburst shape. We'll move it to the opposite corner, and let's go ahead and move that paw shape up as well. So I've repositioned all of these different layers. So we're going to store this information in a new comp. So you want to click on this New Sheet button at the bottom of your Layer Comps panel. And we now have the option to basically name this comp. I'm going to call it Shapes Repositioned. Now, having done that, notice how we have these three different options right here under the Apply to Layers category. So you had Visibility, Position, and Appearance. So again, these are the three, basically the three features that you can control as far as storing them in a new comp. So right now we're focused on position. So I definitely want to have that check marked because I want to store the position of these layers in a new comp. I want to store that state of position. Now I plan on also focusing on storing the visibility and appearance. I want to go ahead and check mark these as well, okay? So these are all currently visible. And so I want to make sure I have visibility check marked, and I'm happy with their appearance right now, so I want that check marked as well. You definitely want to check mark these other two, especially if you plan on creating other iterations where you're going to play around with how they appear and whether or not certain ones are visible, okay? So with all those check marked, I'm going to click OK. And there you can see our new comp has been created. So now we can compare and contrast by jumping in between these different comps. Again, you want to click on the little box here to view what's in the comp. Simply clicking over here on top of the name, it's just going to select the comp and not allow you to view what's in it. So again, we can also control what layers are visible and how we can store that in a particular comp. So let's say I just turn off the visibility for this orange layer right there, so we don't see that orange shaped moon right there. So we'll go ahead and create a new comp. I'll title this Shapes Visibility Change. So again, I want to make sure I have visibility check marked. And so just for good measure, I like to have all these check marked, even if I'm just going to focus on doing just one of these things. I just feel a little bit more comfortable having that done. But we do have visibility check marked. I'll click OK. And again, we can jump through, see all the different iterations. Our original, where we repositioned, and now this new one, where one of the layers is not currently visible for this particular comp. So you could even have multiple layers, or maybe all the layers not visible for this particular comp. It doesn't have to just be one. The next thing I want to talk about is appearance. And let's actually go ahead and jump back to our original comp, and we'll start with this arrangement and appearance and visibility. So how about we go ahead and start with this red kind of starburst layer. I'll change its blend mode to something like exclusion, so it reads well still on this white background. For this blue layer, we might try dissolve. So I'm playing around with a couple of blend modes, okay? But you can also do things with adjustment layers and layer styles when it comes to appearance. So for this one, I might do an adjustment layer. We'll try a gradient. I'll click OK just for a second. Let's actually add a clipping mask so it appears to be only being affecting the appearance of that paw shape. And we might want to go ahead and change the look of that gradient. Kind of play around with that if you want. We'll click OK. And then finally, we'll go ahead. I'll double click on this orange layer here. We'll go into our layer style dialog box, which comes up as a result of doing that. And we'll go ahead and add a drop shadow. And we might want to adjust the distance. We can even adjust the angle if we want to get creative with it. And we'll click OK. So I basically use blend modes, an adjustment layer, and a layer style to change the appearance of all of these different layers. So I want to store that in a new comp. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our new sheet button once again, and I'll call this Shapes Appearance Change. And again, making sure I have appearance check marked. Okay, click OK. We have our new comp that's created as a result, and now we can jump through all these different iterations of our layers and how they're basically being represented as far as their position, their visibility, and their appearance. So the last thing I want to show you is basically adding an additional layer, okay? So let's actually start with this comp right here. We have a little space right here that we can work with. I'll go ahead, let's get a different color like purple, okay? And I'll grab my shape tool right here. I've already got a shape that I want to use. We're going to make a little snowflake shape. And let's make a new layer while we're at it over here in our layers panel. Okay. And I'll just hold down shift to maintain the dimensions of this new snowflake layer. We might move it right here. Okay. So what I want to do is create a new comp. Okay. So I'm going to click on this right here, new sheet button in our layer comps panel. And I'll just call this shapes added, or shape added rather. And I'll click OK. All right, so there's our new comp. Now, if we go back through these again, if we click on any of these other comps we created previously, you don't see that snowflake show up. However, it's still over here in our layers panel. So it's not going to reflect whether or not it's removed from the layers panel, but it will reflect its visibility or its position or appearance once again. And since that wasn't something that was implemented on these original these first four that we created, then it's not even showing up, okay? But on this new one here, we do have it recorded, okay? Now, you could very easily go back to, say, one of these earlier ones, say this one right here, Shapes Appearance Change. We could turn on the visibility of that new layer. We could move it to the center, and if we want it to be saved within this comp that we've previously created, you're going to come down here to the bottom and hit this little button right here to refresh it, all right? And then we can go back through, and you can see here, now it's saved in that comp. So super cool stuff. So hopefully this starts to give you a sense as to what you could do on something a lot more complex, such as a web page layout, a concept like that. So in our next lesson, we'll go ahead and start to put this into practice using a concept of a kind of a fake web page layout. We'll kind of see what we can do using layer comps. So stick around, and we'll see you then.